Hi there, and welcome back to the Tyre Recycling Podcast. It is episode 32 now, and we have recorded this along with episode 31. So please be sure that myself and Ewan have changed clothes in the meantime. If you noticed, wearing us the same clothes from the previous episode. Ewan, obviously, we've talked in the end of the last episode about the interview we have planned with Przemyslaw Zaprzalski. What have you got planned for this episode? Previously, we talked to Przemslaw about the Polish Tyre Recycling Association and what was going on there. Obviously, this will have a different focus. So what is that focus for today's episode?
The focus in today's episode is on the Recykl Group. The Recykl Group is the largest ambient processor of tyres in Poland, and they are dedicated to tyres. They do nothing else. So Przemslaw is the R&D Director, and he seems to be the main spokesman. So he's going to tell us a bit about the company and where they are just now.
Okay, that sounds good. So let's get straight into it with our interview with Przemyslaw Zaprzalski, the R&D Director of the Recykl Group.
Przemslaw, last time we spoke to you, you were representing the Polish Tyre Recycling Association.
Yes.
Today you're with us to talk about Recykl Group.
Yes.
Well, initially, can you give us a bit of general background about the Recykl Group?
Recykl Group. Yes, definitely. So I'm related with Recykl Group. I'm working there as Research and Development Director for a couple of years already. And the Recykl Group, this is a company covering precisely one segment of activity only. This is a recycling of end-of-life tires, only that. And as a consequence, the Recykl Group is specializing in tires and final products related with that.
Okay, so you, what sort of market share does Recykl Group have? Your website says you process 100,000 tons of tires a year. Is that right?
Yeah, indeed. For the last year, we ended with that number, like 100,000 tons. This year, 2022, we will end with, roughly speaking, 120. Yeah, so this is a relatively large number. It means we are processing more than 50% of end-of-life tires generated in Poland. But what we should also consider, Recykl Group is recovering tires from all neighboring countries. Yeah, so Lithuania, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Germany, and also Belgium. Yeah, so we are very active in Central Europe.
Okay, so Recykl Group is helping neighboring countries with extended producer responsibility schemes meet their recycling targets.
Exactly.
Okay, so you obviously have a number of market areas. Could you tell us a bit about the different market areas? Where does your SBR Green Grant go, for example?
Yeah, that is especially interesting because indeed, traditionally, not only Recykl is active in the area of production of granulated materials of different granulation sizes, but Recykl is concentrating on constant development of technologies to purify the material and to increase the quality of the end product. That is just a preludium, I would say, to value-added products based on pure granulated material, pure chips also material, and also on pure powders, because we need to understand that those powders are the very good basis, according to our research and development activity, for the production of rubber mixes and also rubber polymer composites in the form of granulated material that are able to be applied in extrusion and injection molding. So this is a huge area of application of products. But as for now, Reckyl concentrated on gradual development of technologies allowing to produce quality powders and granulated materials and also pure steel. Those legs, I would say, of our activity are very solid. Based on that, we can build new activities like products for polymer industry and also asphalt modifications.
Okay, so the production that you have, you granulate and your powders, they're aimed at non-tire markets in particular, matting, insulation, and so on.
Yes, this is traditionally how the market perceive our activity. To some extent, we can see that the tire production market is a little bit closed for products coming from our industry. They have started just recently looking for regenerated materials to increase the recycled content in their production. So step by step, we are showing new results. The tire industry is looking for new opportunities. So gradually, we think that we will find somewhere in between an agreement, and we will deliver, generally speaking, rubber mixes usable for production of thread, production of inner layer, or other parts of tires. And to that extent, we are working with market experts coming from tire industry who are developing recipes for selected parts of tires.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the polymer market, and I noticed you have a product called, is it Smapol?
Smapol. We are calling
Smapol.
that Smapol. Yes.
Smapol.
I will explain that. Yeah.
Is this produced from tire cord?
Yes. This is produced from tire cords and special additives related with the application in SMA is a stone mastic asphalts. This is a very long-lasting and known technology of constructing roads, and the name Smapol comes from stone mastic asphalts from Poland. Yeah, so it is why it is Smapol. Yeah, but this product indeed it is produced from tire cords, purified with special kind of additives, allowing this product to be used in construction of roads. This material was worth of one of our patents already granted. We worked on that material pretty long, and now we are introducing this material to the market. But this material is working not only as a stabilizer for stone mastic asphalts, but also as a reinforcing material. So this seems to be a revolution. Yeah.
Okay.
But that we need to prove in the coming months and years.
Yeah, I focused on this because the tire cord quite often is a bit of an issue. What do you do with it?
Yes.
There's a couple of insulation projects around Europe, but the issue is all getting the new recycled product accepted by the construction industry.
Yes.
So you using it as a modifier in polymer and in bitumen is interesting, because the rubberized asphalt market is, of course, it's on the brink of being accepted everywhere now. It's only taken 60 years, but we're getting there.
Yes, that's true. It took few years already to develop this material. And at every stage, there are complications because we are, I would not say a leader, but the first starting this technology, probably. So we are obliged to discover every aspect of processing, every aspect of packaging, and every aspect of dosing of that product to the existing machinery. So that should be compatible with all existing technologies at once. So we cannot not neglect those aspects because a customer could simply refuse the application of products. And this is what is taking our time and also financing efforts. Yeah, but it is not the last word in in applications of textile cords, because we found a way to apply those materials also in polymer industry. And as we can see, also extrusion and injection molding in certain conditions is possible. So that should also open a wide window, I would say, of applications for extrusion and production of very interesting products, reinforced by application of textiles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So the market is looking quite positive for Reckyl Group. You have a large share of the Polish market. You're dealing with imported tires from surrounding countries, helping with their recycling. You have a range of products that you have markets for. You have some new technology there. So things are looking very positive. And we'd obviously like to know more about Reckyl as things move ahead. And as always, at some point, we'd like to visit. But obviously, things are difficult again now, which brings us to the thorny question of Ukraine and how Ukraine, the war in Ukraine has impacted upon you in Poland.
Yeah, it is impacting evidently, but it is very interesting aspects because even before launching our strategy 2030, we were concentrating somehow on supplying products to Russia and Ukraine, which are the natural markets for us. We are very close to them. We are bordering with Ukraine, and we saw during recent years very rapid growth of applications of especially powderized materials and granulated materials on those markets, because those markets were relatively big and fast growing for us. Nevertheless, the total volume of sales to those markets closed as 7% of our sales only. Yeah? So now it is not a problem to redirect this stream of materials to our production of mats and cooperating companies with us, our sister companies, and also to EU market. So this is not a problem at all. Nevertheless, we wanted to grasp a part of that market by delivering granulated materials. And also we have invested in one of our companies at east of Poland, namely in Chełm, to modernize those production lines, especially to supply products to Ukraine. Now we need to wait, observe what is happening, and then further decide how to develop activity of this factory.
Yeah, it's the last week has seen some dramatic changes, and recyclers in Ukraine that we've been in touch with they've virtually vanished. Those that we have managed to contact, everything has been into the war effort. So it's difficult times. I think that's understating things. It's difficult times for recyclers there, and the sanctions in Russia are obviously going to impact on on all industries, but particularly for those who've opened up new markets. Is there anything else that you would like to touch on?
So there is one thing that is coming to my mind. In fact, what is very important to know that Reckyl Group is quite characteristic and unique on the European and Polish market, because we are processing tires from the collection to the production of final products, so which is quite unique on the market, and also which is quite characteristic as well. We have a sister company, just to give you an example, which is producing mats of different kind, also artificial turf and so on. And this is not the last word, I would say, because this direction of generating of sister companies specialized in a certain area of activities seems to be a good way of development.
Yeah,
because we need to grasp a human potential, and find specialized applications. The very good example is activity of Reckyl Group itself, because Reckyl is specializing in recycling of tires, production of raw materials for further steps, downstream production. So the specialization is always a good thing in that industry.
Yeah, but particularly with, for argument's sake, the matting of sport surfaces. If you're producing the raw materials, then you need to focus on producing the raw materials and let a different sales team look after the sales of the end product, as it were. And in a way, it partially insulates you from any issues in the market. Have you been impacted by the infill debate?
So we don't see a big impact so far. We are waiting for the further development. We can see that some modifications to granulate shape and the processing of the infill material could change the position of producers like Reckyl. So now we are waiting for the development of the situation.
It must be difficult to be a producer facing what seems like a constant barrage of regulations from.
Yes, indeed. But in that area, we are not afraid. There are so many applications of granulated materials, so we can easily shift the production from this application to other applications. And there was also a certain aspect of this production, because it was season-dependent production, only for summertime, not in winter. So this is changing also a profile of production. Better would be to have a market demanding constantly certain materials, what could be the case in rubber polymer composites, for instance. And rubber mixes as well.
And there you have it, our second interview with Przemyslaw Zaprzalski. Ewan, as always, we like to look at what are the main takeaways from this interview and from the people we talk to in these podcasts. In this scenario, what do you think will be of the most interesting points for our viewers and listeners?
I think there's a couple of points. That 100,000 tons a year that they process, in terms of Polish Tyre risings, is more than half the market. But he has told us that they take tires in from surrounding countries, so Germany, Czech Republic, and until recently Ukraine. So that puts the company in a slightly different perspective, but it's still the major player in the Polish market. They've got a couple of products that are of interest. One of them in particular, he focuses on an area that is quite often a bit of an issue to tyre recyclers, and that's the textile from the cars, for car tyres. They recover the textile and they clean it and they process it into pellets. They look like loose pellets of textile fibre or polyester, nylon fibre. They get sold into the rubberised asphalt market, the bitumen modifier, stabiliser. So I imagine it's a little bit like adding fine steel to help bind things, to as a reinforcer, if you like. So that was interesting, and his comments, and I have to stress, we asked him about Ukraine because he had asked us to ask about Ukraine, and his comments about the Ukrainian and Russian trade that they had lost being around about 7%. That again was an interesting, useful piece of information, because we often struggle, even before the crisis, to find out very much about what was happening in Russia. Even though we have a man on the ground, it is difficult because I think a lot of companies tend to be economic with the truth, shall we say, when it comes to what they're doing and where they're getting stuff from. We would read one article that they don't do any trade with anybody because they've got enough arisings of their own. And here we have Przemslaw telling us that it's 7% of their trade. But it's good news that he hopes to be able to make that up in other markets in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. That is good news. Obviously, what is happening in Ukraine now is a travesty, and business does take a secondary focus on this. But there are lots of knock-on impacts much further afield. But so it's good to see that Przemslaw is positive about that in situation in that regard. Looking forward now, Ewan, to future episodes of this podcast. What irons do you have in the fire with regards to interviews and subject matter going forward?
Hopefully, the next podcast will be with covering some interesting developments on the covered carbon black front. I can't say too much about it at the moment, but we need to go through the documents with the subject and make sure that we've got the right questions and they've got the right answers. But that will be of interest to a lot of people.
Absolutely. Well, we'll keep everyone on their toes for that interview then. Thanks once again, Ewan, for sorting this out and for organising the interview. We'll be back very shortly with episode 33 of the Tyre Recycling Podcast. Until then, please stay safe.